You're going to see. Hi, everybody. You're going to see there's a little brighter light this time, and I hope this satisfies the need for a better view. And so I'm really happy to see everybody. So tonight we're going to continue to basically link breath practices to different branches of yoga and other spiritual traditions such as Zen and other Buddhist traditions. And we're going to keep going back and anchoring the breath to the idea that breath practices, breath awareness is something which threads through all of the mystical traditions and is important in most of them, but gives you a tool to enter into different schools of meditation effectively. And so that's one of the goals here. We're going to review a little bit of what we've done. I was just asked to do a little bit of review on the vagal nerve, and I don't have slides for the vagal nerve tonight, but I will discuss it as we go. So I'm going to share my slides right now. Let's see. I hope it all works. Good. So always getting back to the start and the art of breathing, prana and the energy body. You know, one of the things that we're going to be doing tonight is understanding why I use the word art in that title, because you know, art requires it requires feeling, it requires nuance. It's not rigid, and so that the art aspect of it is important to us, so that we don't get too locked into methods and systems that are, you know, how much we should count, how long, and all that stuff. I don't want us to get too involved in that. The main purpose of breath practices is to calm the mind. And if we find that our mind is getting agitated because we don't think we're doing it right, we've definitely gone in the wrong direction, okay? So let's continue. This is a quote that I had last time, and you're going to see that I'm repeating a few key quotes. And one of the reasons that I repeat them is that we think that we understand something. I do. I think, well, I understand what the words mean. So I take the little aphorism and I move on with my life instead of deepening my awareness of it. We've mentioned this before. So if we really could access the depth of some of these great spiritual aphorisms, we would be able to deepen our own experience of the absolute. And one of the things we're going to talk about later on tonight is that there's one way to think about the era that we're in. I think you may have heard of it if you're in the yoga field, is the Kali Yuga. And the Kali Yuga, in one of its aspects, is that words begin to lose their meaning, just like food losing its nutritional value. So we do our practices with the breath and with chanting and Om to restore the power of the logos, or meaning, to our words. So that's something to realize, that we can deepen our attention to the meaning of these words. Here comes the quote that we've had each time, and I want to just repeat it. I hope you're thinking this when you're going for a walk, when you're allowed to walk, or outside. And realizing that if we can encompass this, we would experience non-dual reality. It's a way, it's a gateway to the experience of the underlying unity of things. If we access prana with our attention as the foundation of being, as the Prajna Upanishad said, prana burns as fire and shines as the sun. Prana reigns as the cloud. Prana blows as the wind and crashes as thunder in the sky. Prana is the earth. Prana has form and no form. Prana is immortality. And we had mentioned that this little poem describes the 5 elements and then the 2 higher elements, the 5 elements which are associated with our chakras and which are a ladder, okay, which our consciousness moves up and down like Jacob's ladder: the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the ether, the manas, and the supreme principle. And so that is, prana is going to take us from the gross level of its manifestation to the highest if we follow it with our attention. Okay, so tonight, this is a little outline of where we're going. We're going to go back to some of the pranayamas that we practiced second night, which had to do with breath holding and with the Mula Bandha particularly. We're going to look at those and experience them. We're going to see that breath attention cultivates detachment, which is vairagya, also tyaga, and some other words that you'll see familiarly in the yoga canon. And the importance of detachment is in all the different mystical traditions. And through breath awareness, we can easily accomplish detachment, because if you're focusing on your breath, you must needs detach from other connections or involvements of your mental stuff. You're bringing your mental stuff to something very subtle. Discernment, because the breath again is subtle, and as the Prajna Upanishad said, it has form and no form. So we're able to enter into the formless when we experience our breath awareness. We get something to a form which delivers our consciousness to the formless through breath practices. This is what I'm claiming. So whenever you think, God, I need a little vairagya and a little viveka, just go to your breath awareness. Now we're going to learn a little bit tonight about samskaras and vasanas. And samskaras and vasanas are the embedded impressions in our subtle body. And since this is a course where we're addressing the subtle body or the pranic sheath, okay, there are contractions in our pranic sheath which actually form blockages in the flow of the prana, and they are called samskaras. And Freud would have you lie on the couch and you'd be talking about your childhood where the deep samskaras were formed. And by being conscious of our samskaras, we take the power out of them. Okay, they call it roasting the seed. And vasanas, we're going to find, are cultural conditionings. Okay, we're born into a place, a time, with a whole lot of ideas about it, which are constantly coming at us, telling what it is to be human, what it is to be your type of human. And those ideas are called vasanas, and they're very limiting. And we have to do something to remove the vasanas. And we're going to see that breath awareness helps with that. Then we're going to go into the wonderful field of Kashmir Shaivism, because we're going to study a little bit of the Pratyabhijna school, which is the school of recognition. We're doing Tratak tonight, which is the focus on the Sri Yantra. And we're going to talk a little about ecstasy and Kundalini Shakti, which is a Mahaprana form of prana, which compresses herself in a great potential form at the base of the spine. And all these things that we do in yoga practices, especially tantric yoga practices, which is what hatha yoga is, are meant to liberate that energy. So let's get going. As you recall, Patanjali kindly defined pranayama. So we're going to be going back to, let's address pranayama. And he says pranayama has three movements: prolonged and fine inhalation, exhalation, and retention, all regulated with precision according to duration and place. Now that word place sometimes is said to be space. And so we're going to sort of just put a placeholder there. And right now, we're going to do a simple pranayama, which is prolonged inhalation and prolonged exhalation. And what we're going to do to get our breath long or deep is do what we've been doing, which is to place our hands so that we get a somatic feel for the deep breath. We're placing our hands on our ribs. I know a few people now who have the virus and are quite concerned about oxygenation. And we are doing this with them so that they enable themselves to get more oxygen simply by the same breath. So let's take 3 breaths that make our ribs expand to the side. Good. When I do that first one, I realize I rarely breathe in such a way as to fill the lower lungs. Let's do it again. You can almost feel the gratitude in your lungs as they expand to receive the prana, the life force. Deep inhalation, exhale, take our hands down. Good. What I want you to do is notice if there's a change in the quality of your mind stuff at this moment. Beautiful. So we're now, we're going to do a breath holding, but first I want to assume the important alignment. We did a lot on alignment last week. Every time we get together, we're going to readdress the importance of alignment. I'm sitting here now with a whole lot of things going out of alignment, and I do this for a living, so I assume it's not that natural. We have to practice it sometimes. So we're going to lift our shoulders up and back, okay? Interlace our hands, press them forward, and raise your arms. And I see that my arms are out of the frame. That's okay. But you're feeling that you're stretching your palms up. Good. So as I move my ribs from side to side, that's my thoracic cavity. That's where the lungs are. So if we go ahead and plant our two sit bones equally into the ground and gently move over, I'm moving to my right, you'll move to your right. I want you to breathe into your ribs. And yes, good. Bring your shoulder blades back towards your spine. There's muscles between your ribs and they get very tight. I want you to inhale to them. And when we exhale, we're going to pull our navel toward our spines. You're going to pull on an exhalation to come back to center. Okay. So whenever we do a side bend, we draw back using our core muscles. So now you're coming over to the left and you're inviting the prana or the oxygen to get between the ribs. Push down on the right sit bone and breathe in. Now you're going to exhale and pull yourself up to as a tree, like a tree that bends, and you pull yourself from the trunk. Good. Open your palms and take them up. And we're going to do the Mula Bandha. We'll be doing it again. So don't worry if you don't get it this time. What it is, you know what it is to pull up on your genitals, as if I have to say it's stopping urine, and pulling up on the perineum, okay? That's the floor of the pelvis. We do it with a hiss. So breathe in through your nose. You're breathing in, and you exhale and squeeze yourself. So you take your hands down. Now pull yourself together. Grab the root. Okay, squeeze it, squeeze it, squeeze it. Pull your chin in. Good. Now relax. Put your palms like this and squeeze your scapulae. All right. So when we do this, we're reducing the curve slightly, excuse me, in the thoracic spine. So squeeze it and squeeze it a little bit more. And you see also that you're disarming. If there's armoring in your chest muscles, pull those elbows together and isometrically tone the muscles, which are going to produce a slightly better alignment of our breathing apparatus, okay? Your bronchial tubes, okay? Take your hands down and take a breath. And I think you probably felt as I did that we just cleared the way for the breath to flow more copiously, fully, and easily. So what I want you to do now is to press the back top of your head up and pull the chin in, okay? Chin is slightly down. We're lengthening our brainstem, as you know, or the back of the neck, and you're just going to breathe. Now, Suzuki Roshi says, you're in your Buddha nature when you assume this posture. There's nothing else to do in Zen except to assume the posture and to recognize your nature. So let's take a moment lifting. He said, you must feel that you're holding up the sky with your head. Now, the recognition is part of our theme tonight. So take a moment to sensitively perceive your own state of awareness and the quality of the mind stuff. Does it change when you really bring your ears back and assume your full stature, the crown right over the heart? Good. So Patanjali talks about breath holding. So let's see a little bit here. Breath retention. Okay, so I was not wanting us to worry about how long we retain the breath. You have to retain it to your own level where you feel that it's causing you to bring a lot of attention. It's getting your attention, but you're not feeling anxious. Okay, so it's an important thing you have to decide for yourself. And then, of course, as we do these practices, the breath retention naturally will increase, but that's not the point. The point is getting a hold of the reins of the wind horse, okay? The breath. So mind is clarified by holding in or out breath. Let's try it. We're going to hold it in. We did this last week. We're going to try it again. You're going to breathe through your nose in and hold it. I'm also pushing out, pushing the belly out. 3, 2, 1, I'm ready to breathe out. Exhale through the nose. Notice the quality of your attention. Your mind may feel that it's expanding at the end of the exhalation when you've held the breath in. We also note that breath holding increases this dopamine. This is the desire to live. And getting in touch with that urgency to live is what, in new yoga, you yoke these deep intentions to your practice so that it's not that hard to get where you want to go. Okay, so let's try it again. We're going to inhale, but this time we're going to exhale all the way out and hold the breath out with no mula bandha. So hold up the sky with your head, pull your shoulder blades together, breathe in through your nose and exhale through your nose and keep exhaling. You'll feel the diaphragm lifting. We're not mula bandha. And just hold the breath out. Hold 3. I want to breathe in, but I'm not. Hold 2. And now I'm ready to breathe in. You're going to find if you want to breathe deeply, breathe out all the way and hold it. Your next breath is naturally going to be very full and very deep. Okay, so let's carry on. We're going to do that some more. Now the name for the breath retention you may know is Kumbhak. And this is from a tantric text we may get a teeny taste of tonight, but we're definitely saving it for the last week, which is next week. When Kumbhak takes place at the end of exhalation and at the end of inhalation, helpful, right? They tell it's both ends. The Shakti, well, what is that? Shakti is prana, okay? It's the intelligence of the universe. Let us not forget, prana is intelligence, okay? That's critical to be aware of. So the Shakti is Shanta, which is peaceful. And through that peace, Bhairava is revealed, the divine. And in fact, Bhairava in this case means the formless God. So, for those of us who tend that way, you get the Bhairava. So is it true? Let's test. When it takes place at the end of exhalation and at the end of inhalation. Well, let's try it at the end of inhalation. Breathe in and hold. You could push down to stretch your diaphragm. Let's hold the sky up with our head. Let's breathe through the nose out and notice if you feel the peace. I do. Let's try it on the exhalation. So part of what we must do as practitioners is not, oh, it's got no qualities, so it's not that interesting. Give me something else to do. The peace of the mind, the peacefulness of the mind needs to be valued. It's always there for us if we will go to it. And part of our practice is to savor it and to appreciate it and to allow it to penetrate, because it is a kind of contentment. And a lot of times we're not ready for contentment. We're scared of it. It might, if we're content, we might not get things we want. I'm that way. So it takes courage. So let's take a breath in, all the way in. And now we're going to exhale. See, I'm not hissing, I'm just breathing out, but I'm breathing out all the way, and I'm gonna hold it. Don't breathe in. Certainly the breath is getting our attention. And 3, 2, I'm breathing in now. I'm breathing naturally. Good. So maybe we felt some shanta or shanti at the end of the exhalation. I preferred the inhalation one. We're going to do mula bandha with the next time we do external kumbhak, and it might be fun. Okay, so the wind horse is something from the Tibetan yoga system, and it's probably early. It's probably from the shamanism of Central Asia. And the wind horse is called the lungta, helpfully, because it represents the breath. Okay. And these people realized that they could take their attention on there, but they could ride it into the infinite. And that's what we're going to be doing. But when we do the breath holding, think that you're steadying a horse, learning how to work with a horse. You're the horse whisperer. Okay. So when we work with our breath, we should be as a horse whisperer, not one of these crazy people with the bucking bronco trying to master it. Okay. We don't want it going all over the place. You know, the mind and the breath are a couple, right? And, you know, it'll go all over the place if we don't learn to get a hold of it, you know. And you can think that the inhalation and the exhalation are the reins of the mind, which is the horse itself, okay? So think that you're a horse whisperer, and the breath attention is the way that we learn to steady and commune with the horse so that it goes where, and it takes us into beautiful places. Okay, so this is from the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad. Now we're going to start to, as we go deeper tonight, we're understanding that all of this stuff we're doing is meant to arouse this Maha Prana, the great prana, which is the Kundalini, okay, the coiled Shakti at the base of the spine. And that is a very powerful energy that we're going to see why we would want to awaken it and why it's good, okay? So Sitali is the name for the cooling breath that we did. That's the pursed lips inhalation, okay? So let's see what the Yoga Kundalini Upanishad says. And it's from the Yajurveda, which is an old Veda. They all are. Drawing the breath through the tongue and retaining it, the wise man should slowly exhale through the nostrils. This destroys diseases. The practice of breath control should be performed daily with the mind firmly fixed on truth. Don't you love it? It's a few thousand years old. They're doing what we're doing now. And I hope that in effect, they're supporting us, you know, doing these practices. So we're going to be, when you may see some of the old texts say that you should roll your tongue, you know, like this. I can do that with my tongue, but it's a genetic trait. My husband can't, so I have one son who can and one who can't. It doesn't matter. The main thing is that you purse your lips, and remember what Patanjali said, fine, making the breath fine. When I purse my lips, the breath, the diffuse prana becomes concentrated. Okay, now it's not just that we're going to concentrate the prana with our lips, we're going to concentrate the prana as awareness with our practice. And so this focal point of the prana is one way that we're going to use it, if you will, if we may say use the great divinity that it is, to become a penetrating vector that takes us past the veil of illusion, okay? So we're going to have to be making it very fine. Now, the other thing we're going to do when we do Sitali this time is we're going to appreciate it, because that's a big theme tonight. The recognition has to do with appreciation. Feel the coolness on your tongue and attempt to taste it, okay? It's so ubiquitous that it's been here since before we were born. It'll be here forever. We don't taste it because it pervades everything. But if we put our attention to it, maybe we can see if it has a taste, as if you are wine tasting, because wine tasters are really into all the nuances, and they run the oxygen with the wine across their tongue. And the thing is that you're in Tantra with me now, and Tantra means learning how to appreciate and feel that the experience of the world is delectable and delicious, and that sense pleasures are, and enjoying them is a form of worship. Okay, so now take your shoulders back. We're going to be doing the sitali inhalation. Okay, purse your lips and taste the wine of prana. We're doing it together. You're breathing in. So delicious, we hold it in, and then we exhale through the nose. Notice your mind. Good. Do it again with me. Purse the lips. Feel the coolness. When you're hot mentally and emotionally, this cools you. We had one of our students was asking about the vagal nerve tone, and the long in breath, the long out breath turns on vagal nerve tone, which is relaxation. Okay. So when I'm anxious, you can see me running around doing the cooling breath, which gives me the access to mindful decisions instead of reactions. You know, a lot of times if we react on fight or flight, we mess things up. Okay, do the cooling breath. Let's pull the chin back, purse your lips, taste the delicious prana as you inhale. Retain it and release it through your nose when you're ready. Yes. You know, we're flirting with prana because we're starting to appreciate her, and, you know, she'll become aroused. So now we're going for the Mula Bandha. We did this last week, but I wanted to clarify because I thought there was some confusion. So let's not worry about, you know, technically the apana is being drawn up. We don't worry about that. It should be raised up by contraction, and it's spoken of as the root lock. And we're going to do it with the exhalation through the teeth. There's no name for that exhalation through the teeth. There might be. It might even be external sitali. I don't care. We're going to do it. We're going to inhale through our nose, get that muscle that we did when we were just a few minutes ago, and exhale through resistance, which is like that. Okay, so breathe in through your nose. See all those roots? Get a hold of them. Exhale and go. Pull them together. Pull that the root ball, grab a hold of it, squeeze the heck out of it, and then breathe in. We'll do one more. And like I say, I think they're very strong, but they give you strong musculature. And the other important thing is that they're bringing consciousness to the root, okay? So that we're not all up in our head. We may think we're very, to be proud of ourselves for being intellectual, but when you're up in your head, you're not realizing things, okay? You're theoretical, but are you in the game? Okay, so a yogi is both theoretical and practical, and that's the two things that are being represented. So you're going to get a hold of the roots. You're going to inhale through your nose. You're going to get a hold of yourself and pull yourself together with a hiss, exhaling. Get a hold of yourself, people, and pull yourself together. 3. If your tongue reaches to the soft palate, that's okay. Squeeze. 3, 2, 1, breathe in. Good. Great. We're ready for our journey. Okay, so we already did this. We seized the tail of the Kundalini, and she became very excited. And abandoning sleep, that Shakti is released and rises up. We're gonna depend on that she's actually rising. We'll see why. Then indeed the central channel becomes the pathway of prana. Mind is free of all connections and death is averted. You're going to see this immortality theme, not just in the yoga practices, but even in different mystical systems, right? So here's Thich Nhat Hanh. Your breathing should flow gracefully like a river, like a water snake crossing the water. So let's just take a moment here. Your breath doesn't have to do anything special. You can follow it, okay? Let it be the guide as you just let it take your mind where it's going. Graceful, easy, no effort. You're in love with it. Yeah, it's a couple, the attention and the breath. The breath is taking the attention on a great adventure. Good. So we're going to see now how breath awareness gives us the ability to experience what the heck they're talking about in Zen Buddhism. Okay. So this is one of the great statements from Sengtstan, I think I say his name correctly, the third Zen patriarch. And I just love that statue. That statue is so beautiful. And I don't know who the artist is, but truly this time we're together is about recognition. So I recognize that. This is what Sengtstan said. The way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. in the mindfulness practices, we call that love and hate attachment and aversion. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. So much of our culture is about holding opinions, about things we know very little generally, and then deciding that the other side is stupid and we're smart or whatever. So here we can have opinions. We must have opinions if we want to go to the cocktail party, if we want to be a judge or a lawyer or go vote, but we have part of our being which is completely neutral. Remember the breath. It is neutral, non-hierarchical. When we go to breath awareness, we're erasing all that hierarchical thinking. This is better, that is worse, that I'm not as good as he is, he's better than she is. All of that hierarchy goes away. Spirituality flattens hierarchy. That is why it is an essential part of a human life, because it is intolerable to be constantly measuring ourselves within hierarchies. And when the spiritual experience completely erases all, we're all equal in the spiritual realm. That's understood, you know it. So non-judgmental. Do you want to find a place within you that has no judgment? What do you think? The prana doesn't judge. It has no opinion. And it just enters unconditionally to every living thing and even the non-living. So the awareness of prana is unconditional, non-judgmental, pure, unlimited, and it is the foundation of all our experiences, both of our consciousness. It takes, if we go into oxygen, it's oxygenation is what's causing our brain, takes 20% of all our oxygen. So it's the foundation of our experience. So how we approach it begins to pervade our experience. If you want to do Tantra, as you approach the prana, the very foundation of reality, of our reality, you approach it as God or as divine or with reverence or veneration. And that makes your life full of magic and beauty. So here's a Zen saying, breath sweeps mind. And we're going to practice the breath as if it's sweeping, okay? The inhalation and the exhalation. I got a little stick broom here. When I lived in India, that my job was sweeping the paths with one of these brooms. And I finally dawned on me after, some long period of time that just as the broom was sweeping the paths, my breath was sweeping my nadis. Along the lines of using the breath with the metaphor of a broom to sweep the nadis, we have Patanjali telling us that realization does not come by actions, but rather it comes by the removal of obstacles as a farmer removes barriers to allow irrigation of his field. So we're going to use our breath to remove conditioning, worries, past and future. It's going to be like a cleaning device. Okay. My guru used to say this: take a broom and sweep your heart. And when we're about to use this idea in our breath practice, what's important too is that for the arousal of Kundalini, which is where we're headed here, it's more important to think beautiful thoughts. That's what really excites the inner energy. So You know, you could do 100 pranayamas perfectly. You could sit in lotus posture like, you know, nobody's business. And, you know, you get up at 5 a.m. But if your mind is not enhanced with the beauty of love, then you aren't going to excite that kundalini, that princess, that sleeping princess. So I have found that when I think thoughts that are beautiful, that are loving, that are egalitarian, the Shakti dances within me. She likes it. So what the awakened Kundalini becomes an inner guru, which gives you a real feedback when you're thinking in enlightened ways, and starts to really diminish when you think in negative, hostile ways. So that's more important than anything you can do with your breath. Okay, the thought, the love, the thoughts, and for if you feel like love is you don't like the way that sounds, you can use attention. Full attention is a form of love. That's what His Holiness Dalai Lama said. He says love is non-judgmental awareness. Okay, but we're going to be doing something very positive to our mind stuff with the breath, the broom breath. Okay, see, it's Marie Kondo, the life-changing magic of tidying up. So see how messed up the garage is? This is like our inner body, okay, our pranic body. And we're gonna get rid of things that don't spark joy. So here, instead of a broom, Suzuki Roshi uses the analogy of a door, and we're about to do the practice. So these are a couple more things. What we call I is just a swinging door, which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves, that is all. When your mind is pure and calm enough to follow this movement, there is nothing. No I, no world, no mind, nor body, just a swinging door. Let's see. Well, that's good, because here's William Blake saying, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. By the way, this is Blake was a great mystic, and he drew what he said he saw when he closed his eyes in the middle of his forehead, and it was this guy. All right, so shall we, we're going to do some swinging door broom breath practice right now. So I want you to take a moment. I'm going to take a sip of water and assume that posture with the chin toward the throat, the shoulder blades drawing toward the spine. And your inhalation and your exhalation start to sweep the clutter. And as you now are sweeping your central channel with the breath, you're going to use that substance which gets out stubborn stains, which is deep love or unconditional, unjudgmental awareness. So add that surfactant to the sweeping. Love the prana, or be fully aware of it with no judgment. Let your breath become an equal sign, which makes you equal to everyone and everything. So what we're going to do is use the in-breath and the out-breath to sweep mentally each of the centers we call chakras. So inhale, exhale, sweep the first chakra, the perineal. Take long breaths in, as long as you like. Inhale, exhale, sweep the sacral chakra, which is your svadhisthana, sweeping away the negativity. Inhale, exhale, the solar plexus chakra, the Manipur. Yes. And the heart chakra, take a broom and sweep our heart. Yes, Kundalini likes this. Take a broom and sweep the throat chakra. Breathe in and out through the third eye region. Sweep away duality. And you can stay at the crown of the head. We'll just sweep down the path going the other way. I'm in the throat chakra. I'm sweeping the heart center now. And the navel, Manipur. The sacral and the perineal. We can open our eyes. Good. So I feel fresh. I hope you do too. So the thing we're going to look at now are samskaras and vasanas, and those are impressions. Remember, we saw that Patanjali said it's about removing things, the way a farmer removes obstacles to irrigate a field. And the things that are in the way of the flow of prana in the pranic sheath are samskaras and vasanas. They're intense impressions. We even take them from one life to another. And the vasanas tend to be more cultural conditioning. Cultural conditioning is so powerful. I'll give you one example that I use sort of frequently. And it's that there was a guy, I think his name was Roger Bannister, and some that time in the 30s, he ran faster than a 4-minute mile. Until he did that, it was considered humanly impossible to hit 4 minutes. But after he did it, thousands of people have broken the barrier. But there was some kind of strong cultural idea that that was a limit. And so we're even more deeply embedded with things that we're not conscious of, which are big limitations to our potential as humans. So that's what vasanas are. And some scars are a little deeper. So here I have, this is how I describe vasanas. It's inundating all the time. You need this, you need that, and Chandogya Upanishad famously said, here and on this plane, people do what they're told, becoming dependent on their country, their piece of land, or the desires of another. So many people I know do things because their parents would want them to or wanted them to, and they don't even want to do it. So their desires are not fulfilled and their works come to nothing, both in this world and the next. Those who depart from this world without knowing who they are, what they truly desire, have no freedom here or hereafter. Get rid of the vasanas, okay? At least we can hear, echoing through the millennia, the teachings of the great sages saying, you are the absolute, your true nature is divine or eternal, and stop thinking of yourself in such limited ways. Grow up. Those are vasanas. So we see that the vasanas need some treatment, we need something strong. And so we're going to use the flaming sword, which is often shown in Manjushri and other divine beings, or even I think of it as the, in Star Wars, the little lightsaber. Your spine is your lightsaber, and we sharpen it with breath practices. We not just breath moving up and down, but the attention applied to the breath. And the attention becomes finer and finer. And the attention becomes even ultra fine when we go to the very end of the breath and let it settle on that moment between inhalation and exhalation. And that space between the breaths, we're going to cover more next week. But this is how you make your Just as Patanjali said, you make your breath fine, your awareness becomes fine. Why would you want to have fine awareness? Because to get through the veils of illusion, you need a very fine grain, a very fine penetrating thing. It's like doing gene therapy. You can't do gene therapy with a plier or a pair of tweezers. You need something really fine, okay? And genes are causative, right? So going to the causal level with our attention means refining our attention. How the hell are we going to do that? We're going to use the breath, okay? And that's one of the great things about it. It also accomplishes detachment, because as I said, if you're focused on your breath, you can't be thinking about the past and future, which is one of the big places where attachments harm us. And you are with the pratyahara, which is to withdraw your attention from the external to the internal, all happens easily and without effort by breath awareness. Okay, so there's that sharpening of the blade motif that you'll see in a lot of different, especially yogic methods. Although there's some in the Christian also, I'll tell you. Okay, so this is the flaming sword of our consciousness, which is the living awareness, which is flowing through our spinal cord, right? And I think of this as the pelvis, as our hilt of our sword, and this is the sword. What's it? That fire of awareness is going to cut asunder these illusions of the vasanas and the samskaras, okay? So we're going to read this and then we'll do it together. So later on, we're going to meet this guy, Abhinavagupta, a little better, but this is something he said. Now, the aim of Kula, which is the practices that he advocates, is to overcome the dualism of pure, impure, sacred and profane, divine and human, even good and evil. It wishes to show how ordinary life is the expression of consciousness of Shiva in union with Shakti. Let's repeat that, because you know how words lose their potency in this Kali Yuga we're in. We think we heard that. Let's hear it again. The last part. How ordinary life is the expression of consciousness of Shiva in union with Shakti. So one of the things our sword is going to cut asunder are dualities, ordinary and miraculous. Okay. We shove all this experience that we have. It's predictable. The train arrives on time. I didn't get a raise again this year, but I walked to the school, I walked to my job, and this becomes predictable. That's ordinary. And then things that are like that don't obey Newtonian physics are miraculous. Instead of understanding, cut asunder that miraculous ordinary duality and use your sword to understand this is a miracle and be in awe. Into the burning flame of his consciousness, he offers impurities in the form of differentiation of conceptual constructs. His oblation is made to the fire without any effort. So let's take a few moments to practice the sharpening of the fiery sword, which is going, the more that we get into it, the more we're going to be cutting asunder the false dualism of such things as ordinary, miraculous, sacred, profane, and pure, impure. Okay, press the top of your head up toward the ceiling or the sky and push your roots down into the ground. Okay, and take an inhalation, sharpening one side of the blade all the way to the hilt, and exhale all the way to the tip. Good. If your focus is very complete, you'll be sharpening your perception. Let's do it some more. The prana, the oxygen, is igniting the fire. Good. Press the crown high, push the hilt down. Yes. Don't let your sword be blunt. Keep firm attention on its edge as you breathe down and up. The fire is obliterating all limiting identifications, vasanas. Pull your chin toward your throat. Take a breath in. We're going to carry on and we'll be doing this some more. Okay. So we were using some more, now we're sort of moving into the tantric methods of Kashmiri Shaivism. And one of the great texts there is the Shiva Sutra. You'll have it for the rest of your life and enjoy it. And it's just so good. And it says the yogi should plunge the mind into the self. And we just did that. We used the breath as a vector and we used it as a sword to plunge into our inner being. Remembering that the other aphorism is the link of consciousness with the prana is natural. That means wherever the breath goes, there goes the mind. You want to plunge your mind into yourself, plunge your breath within. There's an interesting logion from this text called the Gospel of Thomas, which was a newly discovered but ancient gospel with very weird sayings, which from our point of view are easy to interpret through these lenses. And so this saying was, the kingdom of heaven is like a man who had a sword and he wanted to kill a powerful enemy with it. So first he plunged it into the walls of his own house to test it. What a weird thing to do. But when we plunge the awareness into our own being and break away our own conditioning, our own judgment, our own self-doubt, then when we go with our perception into the world, we're not projecting, stuff into the world and trying to fix the world that we didn't actually turn within to fix here first. So that is a wonderful way to think of it. You're plunging that sword to remove your own egoic veil, and then you're sufficient to fix the things that are wrong in the world. Now, don't forget, because we're going to go to Shri, the goddess Shri. The Shri yantra is a ladder, okay, of the chakras, and we're seeing them from the crown of the head, and that is what they look like in a three-dimensional way. We're going to go back into that. So great course that you probably have access to because you're a member, and if you don't, you should get it, is Sri Christopher Wallace's Chakra Illuminated. It's super good. It's really good stuff. And it's in the Embodied Philosophy platform. Okay, so a couple of other things that we take with us. Asanasta Sukham Hradeni Majti. The straight back posture easily immerses one in the heart. And when we become immersed, now put your head back, ears over the shoulders, you're immersed in the heart immediately. But the heart is not just the center of the chest, it's also the core of your being, your own sushumna. So you can think of this central channel, the sushumna, as being the heart, in effect, like the core or cœur, and you are easily immersed in it through posture. Okay, astanasta. So then prana samachare samadarshanam means when prana flows evenly, you get samadhi. So all the stuff we do in hatha yoga is to make the prana flow evenly, because it makes us competent to experience the true unity of things. It's underlying all the appearance of difference. So we can do things with our body to produce the state of awareness, which is the non-dual state. Okay, so this is from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, and it says, we're talking about fire, we're doing a lot of fire, we're building fires here. Let the body be the lower fire stick. Let Om, or the mantra, be the upper. Rub them together in meditation and realize the Lord. So again, somatically using the Om can be the breath. You are rubbing the breath up and down the center. It's a fire stick, and it's going to, through vibration, it's going to cause fire. All right. So, dear incredible Saint Anandamayi Ma, you must get to know. and she's spoken of by Yogananda in Autobiography of the Yogi. She says this, okay, through breath energy, consciousness pervades matter. I advise the practice of concentration on breathing combined with taking any one of God's names. If the breath and the mind become one pointed and steady, then the mind expands to infinity. So there's so many important points here. Concentration, okay? Concentration, that's why we purse the lips and make the breath fine. That's why we do the sword sharpening. Focal point, taking the diverse prana and turning it into an instrument of penetration. And the one-pointed breath becomes one-pointed mind. But what she's saying is that the mind expands to infinity is very true, because you don't grasp the state of non-dual awareness, you open to it. That's why we have to let go of concepts. That's why just a little breath practice without grasping and worrying about whether we did it right or wrong, because that kind of grasping is not conducive to the state of non-dual awareness of the infinite. That's what non-dual awareness is. It's the infinite. It's the perception of the infinite. And one reason the heart is so important, and it's because your heart is a sensory organ which perceives the infinite. We call that perception love. When you love something, we all want love. Love puts you in touch with your infinitude. No wonder you like it. So that is your heart, which is the tasting of the infinite. And so that's why we add love to the ingredient here of breath awareness. We're going to move on and see some more exciting material. Excuse me. So I mentioned love, and I know that sometimes this gives people the pip and they don't want to hear about it. And I don't blame you. It sounds, it's lost its meaning. But here, and this I found from Stephanie Corigliano's beautiful course on the Bhakti poetry, and she outlines the traditional types of love that are that bhaktis or people practice. So there's Shanta, and we've had that already. Didn't we practice peace? We had peace tonight together, and that is, believe me, that's love. Dasya is servant's love, and we're going to be learning that we can use the breath and we can offer it as in a service way, okay? So knowing too that all these things still the mind, okay? Why should I bother to do all this love stuff? Why should I do it? To still the mind. Why should I still my mind? Because tadadrashtu svarupe vastanam, then you will know your true nature. Why should I care about that? Because it's eternal, because it's infinite, and blissful. That's why. So all these types of bhavs, which mean moods, that we cultivate are cultivated to put us in touch with the ecstasy of the infinite. Okay, so there's dasya, which is service. We're going to see how that works. Sakya, which is a friend, and as we say, like, your breath is your best friend, isn't it? Hasn't it been hand in hand with you since the beginning? In all your adventures, all your bad deeds, all your good deeds, it never left you. And it'll be there till the moment we leave the body. And in fact, it becomes a vehicle for our exit. So it's your best friend, and you can love it that way. And Vatsalya, love between parent and child. For me, the inhalation, I touch the Divine Mother, the Blessed Mother. And the exhalation, I touch the Father all the time. I'm never out of touch with the two. And, so you can experience it that way. And then Madhura or Madhurya is like my favorite, and that is romantic love. And of course, you're being interpenetrated, by this consciousness all the time coming inside, and you then give back and go into it, right? So you can, why do we do that? So we're yoking our basic needs, right, to this experience. Good. Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, so this is in the Bhagavad Gita. We're about to try it, where Krishna says to Arjuna, some offer as sacrifice to the outgoing breath, offer as sacrifice the outgoing breath into the incoming breath, and offer the incoming breath to the outgoing breath. So what we're going to do together is, remember the service? We're going to actually offer the breath as to serve the universe, okay? And we'll receive it as service, okay? Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, now we're going to add the mantra Om Namah Shivaya. Remember the elements? So to purify the elements is called Bhuta Shuddhi, okay? Namah Shivaya, those 5 syllables, purifies the 5 elements. So when I give you this mantra, it's coming through my lineage, which is a great lineage and is an awakening Chaitanya mantra, okay? So let's see. Om Namah Shivaya. Let's rub the lamp together. I'm going to put my earphones into the generator, so you won't hear me for a bit. Okay. Okay. Offer the inhalation. At the end of the inhalation, offer it to the exhalation, as if you're serving. At the end of the exhalation, offer it to the inhalation. You're taking in the mind of the world as you inhale. Receive the mind of the world and give it a throne, a beautiful throne, and offer it back into the cosmos on the exhale. Om Namah Shivaya. You're rubbing the lamp, and the genie is going to come up. If you love her, this is good. You're doing beautifully. Let's take a moment. We'll put our palms together and the fingers to the third eye. And we're going to carry on because I have so much to show you. Good. So we're going to deepen our attention to Shaivism, which is Shivaism, and it's the philosophies and practices. You're going to just love Shiva. You know, the ancient depiction, very, very old, 5,000-year-old seal of Pashupati, you know. So he's usually naked in a loincloth. He's kind of a Tarzan kind of guy. He's not conventional at all. And this Shiva statue is at the CERN laboratory you see there in Switzerland. And so this is a very high-level physics laboratory that does particle acceleration. And somebody around there appreciates the philosophy of Shaivism and Kashmir Shaivism, particularly as being amenable to the highest understandings of physics that we have now. Okay, so we're going to say Shaiva Tantra, which is the tantric methods, and you've been doing them tonight, and the Kashmir Shaivism, which is a special school of Shaivism that happened in Kashmir, and it has a lot of overlap with Buddhism, Tantric Buddhism, because they're from the same area. So I'm so excited I hope you don't know much about it because it's so much fun to learn, but if you do, you'll recognize this word, and the word is recognition, pratyabhijna. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing together using breath awareness is to learn recognition as a method of enlightenment. And this is one of these things that my guru used to say, understanding is better than practice. And what he meant is the understanding you get from these ideas is it's an expedience. Okay, it means that you don't have to do a whole lot of practice if you get it. Okay, and so you should practice and you must practice, but the understanding is a very, very powerful accelerator of progress. And so again, from Gospel of Thomas, that you may have heard of these Nag Hammadi Gospels or the Gnostic Gospels. Interesting saying, recognize what is before you and what is hidden from you will be revealed. So when we do breath practices and we approach this thing that's been happening all the time that under our nose that we take for granted, we are starting to recognize something that we didn't realize is, you know, the key to our experience of liberation, the breath. So again, I'm repeating this because again, it doesn't hurt to repeat some of this stuff. Let's hear what Abhinavagupta, a great master of this system, said. The aim of the Kula ritual is to overcome the dualism of pure and impure, sacred and profane, divine and human, even good and evil. It wishes to show how ordinary life is the expression of consciousness of Shiva in union with Shakti. We're not going to see things as ordinary anymore. Everything is miraculous, and even the miraculous is ordinary. Look at this universe. Into the burning flame of his consciousness, he offers impurities in the form of differentiation of conceptual constructs. His oblation is made to the fire without any effort. So we're going to be throwing conceptual constructs into our fire. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole list, but this is a list of what we think of as different, which actually have a meeting, which is one thing. And I've shown you this motif. So all these things, inner and outer, have a union. Okay, we often say that inner and outer is unified in a threshold. Okay, a threshold is a doorway. Remember Suzuki Roshi talking about the swinging door? A threshold is an emptiness. It's a nothing, but it combines inner and outer. So all of these different things like wave and particle, that's from quantum physics, are really one thing. But how does something become a wave or a particle in measurement? From the observer. Okay, so the observation is what makes something one or the other. So we're going to be looking into this a little bit further. Okay, so I put this in. Now this is from Patanjali Yoga Sutra, but it reminds us, why do you do those asanas that you're doing? Tata dvandva anabhigata. From asana comes non-affliction from the pairs of opposites. All that stuff you do with the body is to remove dualism from the instrument, inequality from the instrument. When I remove inequality from the instrument, I experience the equilibrium and the equality of things. So when we see King Arthur removing the sword from the stone, that represents removing consciousness from being embedded in those pairs of opposites. And when he removes the sword from the stone, he becomes sovereign. And that is to remove your consciousness from these false dichotomies. And we have to do that every day in our meditative practice to reinforce it. So this is the next topic on recognition that we're going to experience. Aesthetic receptivity, okay? What does this mean? Again, from Abhinavagupta. the complete absence of wonder is in effect a complete absence of life. You see how people are apathetic? Sometimes like you'll look in the magazine of beautiful women and they look bored. It's supposed to be I'm cool because I'm bored, you know? And that's not a yogic point of view. Aesthetic receptivity is to be immersed in an intense state of wonder consisting of the arousal of vitality. This is a key thing. Being awake to the miracle wakes up the Shakti. Okay, so when you appreciate your reality through aesthetic receptivity, we're going to learn more about, it makes the Shakti happy. She's not real keen with another day, you know, that's boring and all that. We're not in this boring situation now, but that doesn't wake the Shakti. Okay, you have to be appreciative. Only one whose heart is fed by infinite and nourishing vitality, that's prana. Only one who is dedicated to, listen to this phrase, the constant practice of taking delight. That's a practice. You go to the toilet in the morning, take delight. You go get the coffee, take delight. Take delight in the feeling of your feet walking on the floor. That's the practice of taking delight. And when you do that, your life becomes, well, it becomes delightful. I'm feeling the delight of the touch of my hand, my fingers on my palms. That's called sparsha, the touch. Only that one and no other is endowed with the ability to feel wonder. And he very much raised wonder to a high status, chamatkara, or also called adbhuta. And there's vishmayo is another way to say it. There's a great saying, vishmayo yoga bhumika. It means yogic realizations are amazing, or amazement is a yogic realization. It's a good one, right? Okay, now this is the meme that I use to describe to myself and to you what it means when we don't recognize, okay, and how we're living in that world too much. Now this here you see is a portrait of Jesus by Leonardo da Vinci. It was agreed by most scholars that that's what this is. Now, it was sold a few years ago, and myself and some friends were able to see it at Christie's. It was amazing, and I was full of wonder because Leonardo, you know, in this picture of Jesus Salvator Mundi, the savior of the world. But 10 years prior to it being sold for $450 million at a Christie's auction, it was bought for 10,000 British pounds because it wasn't recognized. And it was cleaned up, so that's sort of a symbolic too. But the fact that it wasn't recognized meant that it was just, people were walking past it. They sold it for 10,000 pounds. And so that's a failure of pratyabhishna. Now, I always put the dear being, Van Gogh, in this too, because he sold 1, 2, or 3 paintings in his life. And now we're all running to the museum saying, hi, so it means so much. It's so incredible. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Really? Really? I mean, where the hell was I when I was alive back then, when he had his paintings lined up against the wall and couldn't sell them, right? But now we're all amazed, aren't we? That's Vasana. That's being told what's amazing and what's not. Well, we're not going to live that way. We're going to be amazed and appreciative and see great art and the genius around us before we're told, okay? Now, this is another important moment in the lack of recognition problem. And it is Joshua Bell was made to, he was told to do some busking, play violin in the subway in Washington, D.C. He was getting $200 a ticket at the Kennedy Center, but he went and he played in the subways, and he was in pain, you know, he was in agony because after 2 hours, he made $32, and it was rush hour, and people were just, there's filming of it, people just walking by. Apparently, you have to be told he's brilliant and a genius, and then you pay the $200, and then you preen yourself that you're such a, you know, person of taste, okay? But when you don't know, this is why the poor man, he was devastated. So then a couple of days later, they had a do-over. They told the populace that it was Joshua Bell, and they all showed up. I feel like I wanted to put a picture of sheep over here. Okay. So here we are. Oh, it's Joshua Bell. I guess that means he's really good. Let's not do that. Okay. Here's a nice statement about the prana, which wakes us up to the amazement of it. Every neuron, every synapse, every muscle feeds on the flame of your breath. Breathing is not only critical to sustaining life, but done correctly and consciously, it can be a valuable tool for getting the most out of every human endeavor. So that's that kind of way that we're going to be thinking. We're not going to be, when you see somebody who's a genius playing in the subway, pay attention, applaud, and put some money in the tin, you know? Okay, so this is another element of this philosophy, which is actually from the, as I understand it, this is more Vedic, drishti, srishti, okay? It means the doctrine of creation through perception. It means the world is as you see it. So drishti means seeing. You may, if you're a yoga teacher, you may know about a drishti point, something to look at. If you recall, Patanjali says, yoga's chittim vritti nirodha, yoga's the stilling of the mind. Tada drashtu, svarupe vasanam, then the seer, drishti, the drashtu, will know her own nature. So there's something about the seer. Now, I'm bringing this out because this is about prana. And as you know, there are the 5 pranas, which were prana, apana, samana, vyana, and uddiyana. Okay, I don't want to go into what they mean. It doesn't matter right now. And then there are sub-pranas. And one of the sub-pranas that we're going to be playing a little with is the kurma prana, which is the prana which through which we are seeing. Okay, so this thing, there's something coming out of our eyes, an emission, which is it's what it's called in the Shaivite thing. There's something, it's our projected truth. Remember how it's a wave or a particle depending on the viewer. The viewer is the kurma prana, which is creating reality. And I put this here because when I first got out of the car the day I met my guru in June of 1976, there was this banner above the ashram door, see God in each other. In those days, nobody believed in God that I knew, but it really hit me. And that's a command, okay? So remember how we're asking ourselves to appreciate, to see? Well, seeing God in each other is an action. It's a yogic asana. It's a cognitive asana that we should be doing, much more important than standing on our head, okay? To see the divine in others, to project the best in the other person, to project their soul. All spiritual practices, in all traditions, seeing the divine in the other. Now, when you do that, your Kundalini is going to like it. That's what I'm trying, why I'm selling it. I'm sure you already do it. But more than breath practices, standing on your head, lots of pranayamas, hours and hours of whatever you think you're doing, see God in your neighbor, the annoying neighbor. Look past that and see the light. And that's going to make your Kundalini very excited. That's why I put here, prayatna sadhaka. That's from Shiva Sutta. That's the effort, okay? It's not like getting up every morning at 4 a.m., which is great to do. Better see God in your spouse, your children, and your Kundalini is going to be very happy. So why am I going here? Because I want our Shakti to be awake by the time this is over in 10 minutes, okay? So here from the Kundalini Stavaha, we'll be looking at next week some more. Beautiful, it's a very, very sacred text. She's called Mahaprana. O supremely beautiful and effulgent one, O Mother, you are the beloved consort of the supreme primordial Guru and are one with him. Thou who resorts to the Kurma Prana as seeing during the waking state, look at me. Shakti is coming out through your eyes, okay? She knows how you're seeing. Each of our chakras is a kind of a lens on the world. And we know that when we're critical of people, we tend to criticize and point the finger and project the qualities of the chakra we're a little bit obsessed with, whether it's oh, that person's greedy, first chakra. Oh, they have sexual innuendo and peccadillo, second chakra. Oh, that's them, not me, of course. That's them. And then they're out for power. That's a third chakra. So when you can tell it's a little embarrassing when people are sort of obsessed with the flaws of others, that it tends to go through a certain lens. It's a little embarrassing because we are really showing what is our
Okay, built in. Okay, so yoga's chittam vritti nirodha is what Patanjali said. Tada drashtu svarupe vasana. We see the eyes. Okay, so this is actually the Big Bang, what it looked like according to Brookhaven.
Your eyes are projecting your reality, okay, through kurma prana. And God is seeing this universe into reality. That is called the glance of Shiva. And if you want to see a strong experience I had about this, you can even just Google the glance of Shiva and it'll come to a short description on my website of an experience I had of the glance of Shiva. Okay, but that's what we're interested in. Here it is. Shiva's glancing or seeing the universe into reality, and you're a little bit of Shiva. Like next week, we're going to see we are little microcosms of all the properties of the divine, the creation, the sustenance, and the dissolution. Seeing everything as one's own consciousness, one drinks the wine of bliss. No other aim of life remains to be accomplished after the rise of satisfaction attained through such awareness. Abhinavagupta. You got to do it. Okay, so I want to do, okay, so we're going to do a little Kurma Prana practice. Okay, we're going to look in the center. People had said they didn't understand our practice last time when we were focusing in on Shri Yantra. Okay, we don't have a lot of time for it. So I'm just going to take a few moments staring at the center of this beautiful yantra. Before we were looking, keeping our gaze at the center, we looked at the downward flowing and then the upward flowing. Just keep shifting your attention. While you keep your attention on the center, shift it to the upper and then the downward flowing triangles. Lift the crown of your head. You are looking down the center of your sushumna. This is her ladder. Through the ladder of the chakras, she steps down into the physical realm. And then she ascends back to the causal realm, the source. Just keep doing it, sorry. With your inhalation and your exhalation, you're stepping down one rung at a time into the physical reality and breathing down to your first chakra and then ascending. Very nice. We'll do that some more. Okay, so, I got to tell you about ecstasy. That was what I needed to tell you about tonight. And so I got into yoga because I was studying ecstatic religion in college. And the word ecstasy means out of oneself. It comes from that. And what is this that you're getting out of? You're getting out of ego. Ego is so limiting and it's quite frightening. It's useful. It's like being in a car. I mean, you want to go to someplace, you get in a car. Got to get out of the car, right? So ecstasy is getting out of the ego and experiencing your all-pervasive nature. Then get back in the car, enriched, get back into the ego, enriched with that, having touched that knowledge. When I was in college, I understood why, or I was exploring the use of ecstasy, or the function of ecstasy in human evolution, especially social evolution. I understood that you saw ecstatic religion proliferating where societies were breaking down. And what I thought was that through ecstatic experiences, people were disabusing their nervous system brain of hierarchical categories that aren't useful anymore. Why do institutions break down? And we're having it now in our own reality because they don't function for the new reality. And so you need new ideas, okay? You need to dispose of the old ideas, but the old ideas are like literally in your body. And you need ecstasy to remove yourself from vasanas and samskaras, to then refresh your consciousness so that you can be more competent in the new reality as it is. That's what I was experiencing. And when I thought, as I was writing about ecstasy one night in 1976, I thought, modern West, I was doing all these small scale societies, and I said, but modern Western civilization may be due for an ecstatic transformation because we're falling apart. And I had an explosion at the base of the spine, a very powerful movement of what I now know as the Shakti into my crown. I dissolved into white light, and I was told I was going to meet a great master, which I ended up doing. So I'm pretty attached to the amazing field of ecstasy. Now, this is Kali Yuga that we're in, okay? There's a Hieronymus Bosch. We're in an age of darkness, according to some philosophies of yoga. But what's great about it is that it's easy to become enlightened, okay? That's in the more divine eras of civilization. Everything's so wonderful. People don't care about being enlightened. In Kali Yuga, we want to get the light, okay? So that's one of the good things. Now I'm going to show you a few things of how ecstasy is accomplished in different cultures, and this is what I was looking at in college. So you have here, these are Gurdjieff or Gurdjieff dancers. This is the shakers. Why were they called shakers? Because they shook when they were ecstatic. Now we have the sama, which is the whirling dervishes. They're very interesting because I once saw a troupe, and the announcer said, this troupe goes all the way back to Rumi, the great Sufi that we still have his jewels of poems and thoughts. And there are troops of whirling dervishes in Turkey that aren't doing it to get into ecstasy, but this troupe does. So I looked at them, and you could tell from their faces they were going into the non-dual state, because you can see it on the face. And I realized that that's like hatha yoga. You can do it knowing that it's going to take you to the divine, or you can just do mechanical movements. Same movement, same effort. So link the movements to the meaning, and know that it's taking you to the divine experience of the self. Then your postures are going to have meaning. So that's the sama. It's very interesting because sama, samadhi, that word, and shamanism comes from that same root. Now, we're seeing some more double snakes. I'm talking now about the Kundalini. Okay, you're going to see it. The shamanism of the Kung Bushmen. They do a trance dance. These are the guys I was studying. They raise num. I didn't know what the heck that was, but the anthropologist said it's a force that resides in the bellies of men and women. It heats up and travels up the spine to explode with therapeutic power in the brain. This is the anthropologist's point of view. And isn't that just what we're talking about? The awakening of Kundalini, and it's like fire. So we see all these motifs. This is very, very old. This is Sumerian. This is, I think, Egyptian. That's the DNA. That's the caduceus. And this is from long time ago. And I wanted to share with you, because we're going toward, this is prana, Kundalini. And the Egyptians had a lot to do with it, because you keep seeing these double snakes. Remember the Ida and the Pingala, which are when they become, you see here, there's a male and a female. This is the sun and moon, Hatha yoga. And here the pine cone probably refers to the pineal gland. So this is called the nehebkau, from the ancient Egyptian word for yoke. Well, that sounds familiar because we're yogis. Uniting with the ka. Okay, so here's some of the statements in one of the old pyramids in Saqqara that was recently translated by a woman named Susan Brind-Morrow. The liquid of the spine is an edifice held high. The spinal cord serpent bites. The snake encircles you in your tree. The serpent rises through the tree of the body. Rise, rise, your serpentine light body burns in your skull. Pulling up essences: earth, water, fire, air, ether. Essence of earth, essence of wind, revered, fierce, glowing spinal cord. Revered. See him in his form of the vehicle of the spinal cord. He has broken the knots of the spine. We call them grunts. You'll read about that. He receives the essence of the stars. Say the word, mantras. The light body rises. The rising serpent releases and becomes the light body. Okay? So here, the coiled one, she also is evolution itself. Okay? Got some more. So when we do hatha yoga poses, we're awakening, we're actually recapitulating our evolution. We're going from reptilian, we're exploring what it was to be four-legged, and in doing so, we yoke and unite with our own evolutionary memory, okay? In your sushumna are the samskaras of all your past lives, and they start to become accessible to you when you do these practices. Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Kundalini is the support of all yoga practices. I have just a few more to show you. When the sleeping Kundalini awakens by favor of a guru, then all the lotuses and all the knots are pierced through. Sushumna becomes the main road for the passage of prana. The mind then becomes free of all attachments and death is then evaded. I have to keep going, so just a little more. See here, this is a Roto-Rooter, and this thing is called a snake. And that guy, when you have a really bad clog, he's going to come with the snake. He's not kidding. And that thing right there, that's the coiled snake. That's the Kundalini. And the Guru Kripa is the grace of the Guru. Okay. Now, I had a beautiful paper from one of our students. I hope he's here tonight, Jordan Lashley. And he made the analogy about yoga. And he talked about having received a bulb, which has an amaryllis, and that over the couple of months, he watched it grow, watched it go up. That's sometimes how the Kundalini goes. She goes from the khanda, which is called the bulb at the base of spine, and she just keeps coming up, and then she flowers. And it was beautiful, beautiful paper, because he was talking about how it flowers in the dead of winter, you know, after the winter solstice and all those celebrations. We're now in February when it starts to flower. Your Shakti is like the force that through the green fuse drives the flower, and it will flower if you just keep practicing. This is Udyamo Bhairava. The Shakti will arise. God is arising. So a last story to tell you. So this is about grace, because, oh, I'm going to waken up my Kundalini. That's great. I'll do a little breathing. I'll think nice thoughts. Now you need one more thing, and it's called grace. Now this story. So one time that sage Narada saw these two little sandpipers, and they were running into the ocean, getting some water, and then running back to the shore and emptying it. And they went back and forth. And so Narada said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, it took us a long time to get an egg, and our egg fell in the ocean. So we're going to empty the ocean and get the egg." And you know, our karma over the millions of years of lifetimes is like an ocean, and each time we live a life, we get only a teaspoon of karma to work out. Okay, it's going to take a long time, but Narada went to Lord Shiva and said, you know, there's a cute little pair of birds, and they're just trying so hard, and they're not going to give up, and they're emptying the ocean one little beakful at a time. So with compassion, Shiva allowed them to brought the egg forward so that they could get that egg. in their next foray into the ocean. That's grace, okay? So all your efforts really aren't sufficient, but they attract grace. And grace is what breaks through all the karmic laws and picks you up when you desire it so much that you're very sincere and consistent in your approach. This is my guru. I'm about to end it, giving Shaktipat, which is the awakening of Kundalini. I'll tell you about that next time more. Here's his guru, Nityananda, who's an amazing being. I don't know how to call him. He will awaken Kundalini. He came here for that. And here's a picture of Muktananda with his guru. And I wanted to end with that because his reverence, he was terrified of his guru, as I was of mine, because of the power. The power is so unutterable. And you know the power because in their presence, they give you experiences of the divine. So from that, you are humbled. The guru enters you through the mantra. Kundalini contains all mantras and is awakened quickly by the mantra. So next week, we'll get together and we'll practice mantra and we'll continue with the awakening of Kundalini. And we're going to look at the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra and the Kularnava Tantra with the breath practices using the mantra Hamsa. Okay? The end. I'm going to stop sharing. I went past a little bit.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for all the information that you provided. It was wonderful. I'll start with
I know there's a lot of it, but I'll try to expand on it next week a little more.
Okay. So I'll start with some of the questions. We had a few questions come in from the beginning when you were talking about prana and focus. Becca asked, what about keeping the mind occupied to drop into the heart with counting? Like, is there a way to keep the mind focused, dropping into the heart?
If you've found that works, Becca, it does work then. You know, you have a spatial or a somatic feeling of the mind dropping in the heart, you're using numbers. If it works for you, it does. I can only offer, you know, the things that I do, which I do a lot of breath awareness, and I'm not big on numbers, but sounds good to me. Is it, you have to trust your own feeling.
And the next question, is the breath in the belly or taken, is the breath in the belly or is it taken up during Shatali? I was taught that Mula Bandha was drawn up as one did the inhale.
I have always done the Mula Bandha on the exhalation, but it would seem to me that it's perfectly fine to do it on the inhalation. It doesn't work as well for me, and I've been doing it on the exhalation. So yeah, if you've been doing it the way you were taught, do it that way. Remember why we do it, because it draws our attention, because it strengthens the musculature and it makes the mind calm, because then we will know our true nature. Okay, so if you feel that it's working for you and that you get that peace of mind and that you can then cultivate that, that's what it's for. So I'm not that, you know, strict about how you get there. I hope that's okay.
Yes. And when you were talking about getting hold of yourself, when you say get a hold of yourself, this is from Rebecca. When you say get a hold of yourself, do you mean to squeeze? So
yeah.
Is it squeeze on? Okay.
How do you hold things? Right. I get a hold of things. Yeah, later next week we're going to find out about the prana linga. Okay, there's a linga of prana that you can hold. It's kind of very tantric, and you'll enjoy it, I hope.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what would be the equivalent of samskaras in the Western mind, like in psychology?
I think they would be the conditioning that people very often you'll say, oh, I was just a real, I was going to use a very bad word, but I was just a really doing awful. But it's my mother. She was so mean to me when I was little that, you know, so the impressions we have from our childhood, which are very, they shape our reactions. But I'm a big advocate of getting over it and not blaming anybody or anything. But so those samskaras are, I think, and the other thing about a samskara is that the light of awareness roasts the seeds of samskara so they don't bear fruit. Because if you roast a seed, you can't plant it and it won't bear fruit. So when you do therapy, you must see our own conditioning. We have to see. Now, when you do chanting with Kundalini awakening, it moves through and it will stir up painful samskaras as well as pleasant ones, and just samskaras in general. We'll be talking a little more about that. So yeah, there's a Freudian and or psychology idea. So, but the idea is see through the conditioning. Don't
your bad behavior on it, and become free of samskaras.
Awesome. And what breath techniques are best for certain situations and times of the day? i.e. the applications of these techniques.
Well, I think you might. I think in a way, someone else is a better person to. I would Google that because there's a lot of sort of classical ideas about what's a good thing to do. For example, if you do alternate nostril breathing, but you just breathe in through the left nostril, so you inhale and exhale through the right, inhale through the left, exhale through the right, you'll feel it'll enhance your restful demeanor. Okay, so I don't do that with my clients that are in corporate offices. I did it once and they all got tired and they didn't want to go to work. So then you breathe into the right nostril when you want to be active. So I'm pretty casual about that. Now Bastrika is, it creates fire. We can try that next week. I said I would do it this week, but it didn't really fit. Bastrika or Kapalabhati. But you're going to have to, that's not my expertise at all. So there'll be somebody else who can tell you that.
Okay. And for recognition, what's the meaning of recognition, like gratitude in your framework, like in your own framework of recognition?
I would definitely think gratitude is an aspect of recognition.
Okay.
And I get gratitude if I hold my breath long enough, then when I inhale, I'm full of gratitude just for breathing. So that's enhanced recognition. So we're recognizing the prana. So I'd say, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And can you recommend a publication of the Shiva Sutras?
You're right that some of the translations are a little archaic seeming. The person who had really maintained the sustenance of the Shiva Sutras is Swami Lakshman Joo, Joo, and I think from there, so he not only studied them, he exemplified them, and he also sustained them because they were really not very well remembered, even in the 20th century. So I would say Swami Lakshman Joo, Joo, but you'll find others that might be easier. There's even some that are just PDFs online. There's a website called Shiva Shakti Mandalam, which has a nice, you're going to want to look at a few different translations because you don't want to just stick with one because you want to see a few translations to get the full feel for what it means, I would say.
And let's see. Thank you, Mary. I think you touched upon this today, but is there anything more you would want to add? Why are the eyes of saints and deities so deep and peaceful? Like in the picture of Anadamaya, all I saw were her eyes. What is the significance of the eyes in the quest for consciousness, and how do we cultivate that?
Yeah, Anandamaya Ma. So she, the glance of a saint carries initiatory power, carries grace, and she is a great saint. And so remember how we project through our eyes, they see God. So one of the main wonderful things that happened when I came face to face with Muktananda, he had beckoned me over because I was scared of him, and I didn't used to go near him. But he came, made me come near him, and then he made me look at him. And he was looking me in the eyes, and I saw the gaze of an equal, and I'd never seen it in my life. I was like, what? I could see that he was in this complete state of equality with me, and I had never seen it. Everyone, we all look at each other with a little bit of high, a little bit of low, a little bit of judgment, a little bit of I'm not you. This was a complete seamless equality. And so that's what's coming out of their eyes. You are already where you want to be. Get the pictures of great saints and look at them, because you will get Shakti and grace from it, I say.
And this is a question relating to samskaras and visasanas. Could you tell us more about samskaras and how they differ from visasanas, and also how to release samskaras through meditation?
Yeah. So the vasanas, this is my definition, because it's a usable definition for me. You're going to go and find different definitions, but you're going to have to own the word and own the experience and then decide what it is. So vasanas are more like I weigh too much, I'm getting old, and I'm not as smart as that person because they have more degrees than I do, and I'm terrible at, I don't know, salsa dancing. So these are cultural imprints, and, we get them from our media, okay? They tell you who you are. And so they're much more surface in my view. A samskara is a much deeper thing. And why is it deep and more powerful? Because it's even more subtle. When as you chant, because the Kundalini really likes chanting, she does, like the snake, she starts to stir and starts to move through your pranic nadis. And then you will experience deep, now for some deep samskaras, or some deep injuries you had as a child, mental and emotional, probably. You know how they say sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me? Words can hurt me, okay? A lot more than the sticks and stones. And words are not just words, they're facial expressions, attitudes, and those become deep, okay? And through the chanting. So if you want to disabuse yourself of some scars, chant. And Om is great. Om is the guru of the universe. Om is called pranava. So it's prana in the form of vibration. So you can Om, or you can chant kirtan, and that will remove some scars. Now, in my sadhana, with a great guru, I saw my past human lives, and then I saw my past animal lives. That's why I'm very related to the asanas as being animal, because in your sushumna, in your central channel, is your history. And just as in your DNA is the history of the cell, which comes from a yeast cell all the way through that spiral, from where each of your cells carries the information from 3.5 billion years of evolution is in your DNA. Okay, it's been handed down, unbroken. Okay, if it had broken, you wouldn't be here. So that the DNA holds all your information about your evolution, and so does your body. Like these used to be fins. These ears were fins. So your body actually has the story in it. Your cells in the DNA have the story, and your sushumna has the story. And that starts to become revealed if you do a lot of practice of chanting.
Awesome. And this is a question about our breath. We've practiced the breath moving downwards with the inhalation. Is it also beneficial to practice the breath moving upwards during the inhalation?
Totally. And, you know, the sort of hard to, you know, convey is that it does both. So I tend to think the breath goes down, and that's in some of the tantric texts, they will say that it's the descent, the inhalation, and the exhalation is the ascent. But the truth of the matter is that within the shaft of that descent is something going up. And when it goes down, the shaft goes up like that. Do you see what I'm saying? So you're going to feel both and just enjoy either one or both or one or the other. They both fine. Some people, it's like being left-handed. You have a tendency to have this experience going up rather than down. It's fine.
Awesome. And can we just use some anatomical words for what we're supposed to engage when kegling?
Kegeling is a good way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Kegel is, and men Kegel, but we women are, you know, I had two gigantic babies, 9 pounds, you know, or more, almost 10. So anyway, you have to, you know, get your muscles. And so we call it Kegel. So that's a fine way to do it. We hold those Kegels instead of repetition of Kegel. We retain it. And you'll get a very strong set of muscles down there. And if I may, it makes the orgasm stronger because it strengthens the muscles. And so that's another reason why you might want to do it. I don't know, I did say it, but it's true.
Okay. And can Kundalini awakening be dangerous? Can it rise prematurely or before the granthis are removed?
You're going to read that it's dangerous. If you, there's a, you know, that's why the grace aspect and why if you do the purification of your mind and heart, you won't feel that it's dangerous. If you try to force it, it might not treat you so well, okay? But if you do that love of the purification of your mind and heart through seeing the divine, through recognition, it won't be dangerous. It may be like the force that through the green fuse drives the fire, slow and gradual. And if for those of us who it gives strong ecstatic experiences, you do have to be grounded and you don't share them. I don't share them generally because people either think you're lying or you're crazy. So basically, I read that it's dangerous, and I've known that sometimes it can cause ecstasies that are inappropriate. But I think you're going to be fine. Now, if you want to put up a roadblock and say it's going to be dangerous, go ahead. I don't, you know, it'll be. You can do that too.
Let's see. Are you going to lay out a course of practice? Oh, sorry. Are you going to lay out a course of practice of pranayama, or can you suggest where we can find one?
Well, I'll do that for next week, and you know, do your own research on that. We've learned that we can, first of all, breathe fully in and fully out, and that tones the vagal nerve. So if we were grounded in science, right? And then we learned from Patanjali that's pranayama, and that we should do that to still the mind, to know our true nature. But you can't hold on to pranayama. You have to experience the mind state. Okay, so you know, it's and the other thing is, and next week too, we're doing Tantra, okay? And Tantra uses the analogy of romantic love or eros. Do you want to lay out a practice between you and your lover that you should do every day? That's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I can do that, but don't forget to bring the love and the juice and the you know, the flavor, the rasa.
And I think this is our last question. It goes back to samskaras. I might have missed it. Are samskaras always negative, or can they be neutral? Like how karma is action.
That's so cute. So yeah, not only that, in the Pratyabhishna Hridayam, you're absolutely correct. He talks about the samskaras of the samadhi state. So that that every experience leaves its impression, including the samadhi you get in a meditation. So yeah, they can be positive, absolutely. But we all the time, you know, are trying to not be dominated by any particular samskara. I'll get you that next week. I was going to put it in this one, but it's an interesting statement where Abhinavagupta in the Pratyabhishna Hridayam, no, it's not Abhinavagupta, it's another author who talks about the samskara of enlightenment, if you will, of samadhi.
Awesome. I think that's our last question. Just a lot of comments coming in saying thank you. There was a couple of comments I think you would appreciate. Thank you, Mary. The lighting is much better, which is more pleasant. And then also, Ellen said that you're so beautiful and wise. Thank you so much. Your eyes just teach so much.
You're embarrassing.
And everyone is just saying thank you so much for your energy, very solid and authentic. For the other questions that I might not have gotten to, there were questions about showing different slides. The slides will be available again if you wanted to run through any slides, so they'll be available on your online platform. And that's it. Do you have any closing words for us?
Well, keep reading. Thank you, Nika, for your wonderful partnership with me.